Enjoyed this HF? Why Humans Are Special Sci-Fi Adventure? Dante, forget to subscribe to Alien Line, English stories for more epic tales of humans defying the odds in the cosmos. Follow Sergeant Jax Kade and Lysera as they battle empires, survive alien storms, and forge a bond that could unite worlds. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story full of heroism, love, and adventure across the stars. The sky of Virellon bled green. Iron storms rolled overhead like slow tidal waves, illuminating a forest of crystal spires that sang in the wind. Each gust turned the whole valley into a humming choir, glass needles resonating in eerie harmony. Between them, the ash fell black, glittering motes drifting down from a fractured orbital shipyard high above. Sergeant Jax Kade trudged through the crystal grove, boots crunching against shards that rang like tiny bells. His breath fogged the visor of his low-end scout helmet, and the readouts flickered irritably in crimson. Mission: recover flight recorder priority. Low-live targets? None expected, sure, Jax muttered. Low priority? Ash planet? Singing glass? Definitely fine. Behind him, his dropship's engines dwindled into silence as it lifted back toward the clouds. He'd told the pilot he'd be 20 minutes. They'd laughed and said if he wasn't back by then, they'd drink to his memory. Humans were like that laugh first, panic later. The wreckage loomed ahead, a broken Virellon courier ark, half buried into the crystal forest, its elegant crescent hull cracked open like an egg. Blue-white coolant steamed from ruptured conduits, mingling with the green iron light, everything tinted sickly jade. Jax tapped his wrist pad. Command, this is Kade on site. Visual on target vessel. Life signs are. The scanner pinged, then flashed something unexpected. Life form detected, vitals critical. Species, Virellon. Jax blinked. Thought they evased this quadrant. No answer from command. The iron storms chewed up comes. He sighed. Of course they did. He tightened his grip on his pulse carbine and pushed inside the wreck. The interior of the Virellon ark was a ruin of shattered biocrystal and flickering bioluminescent veins. Virellon ships were grown more than built. Now, this one bled pale, blue ichor from ruptured walls, pooling around twisted bulkheads. Jax climbed over a fallen archway and stepped into what must have been a central sanctum. The air tasted like ozone and burned flowers. She lay half-buried beneath a collapsed support ribslender. Silver-skinned, bioluminescent markings along her neck pulsing weakly, white hair spilled across the floor like liquid light. A Virellon woman, young by the look of her, wearing ceremonial woven crystal bands instead of military armor. Her eyes faceted, opal violet fluttered open as he approached. She tried to move and cried out, a soft, chime-like sound. Easy, easy. Jax slung his rifle and knelt beside her. The scanner on his wrist screamed about internal hemorrhaging and a crushed leg structure he had no names for. She studied him with hazy confusion. Who? Man, that's me, he said. Sergeant Jax Kade, Profesmik. You're in rough shape. Lady! Through the storm, his cum crackled to life. Kade! This is Dropship Gamma. Storm intensifying. We're bugging out. You got the recorder yet? Jax glanced at the shattered core node across the room, charred, but intact. Still working on it, he said. Also, we've got a live Virellon. Female, critical condition. A pause. Then the pilot's voice, flat and tired. Sergeant, orders from up top are clear. Virellon assets on this world, a non-priority. We're to pull back before the storm melts our hull. No rescue for locals. Grab the core and get your ass back to the LZ. Jax stared at the wounded woman. Her hand twitched, reaching blindly for something anyone. Her lips formed a word in Virellon, a bell-like syllable that his translator failed to catch. Raw fear shook in her voice. Kade, the pilot pressed. Confirm you understand orders. Around him, the crystal ship groaned. Ash drifted through a crack above like dark snow. Humans were adaptable. Ruthless, when they had to be, but they were also something else. He exhaled. Yeah, I understand. He cut the channel. Then he shoved the rubble off her with a grunt, shards slicing his armored sleeves. All right, sweetheart, we're not doing the tragic death alone thing today. She hissed in pain as he freed her leg. The damage was bad. He didn't know Virellon anatomy, but bones weren't supposed to bend like that. This will hurt, he said, already. Hurts, she whispered. Her accent was musical, each word like a plucked string. He pulled a stabilizer splint from his pack and improvised, wrapping and bracing her limb. She watched him, confusion slowly turning to wary trust. You ignore your orders, she murmured. Yeah, bad habit. He flashed a crooked grin. Name? She hesitated. Then, Lysera. Daughter of the Vox line, keeper of the memory flares. Okay, Lysera. Let us make sure keeper of the memory flares doesn't end with died in a stupid crash. Can you sit up? With his help, she did, leaning against his chest. Her skin was warm, faintly luminescent, like moonlight caught under the skin. He thumbed his comeback on. Gamma, this is Kade. I have the recorder and an injured Virellon VIP. You're coming back. Negative. Sergeant. Orders. You tell. Command that Sergeant Jax Kade said if they leave her here. I'm staying too. Someone can write that up later. Silence. Then a low, disbelieving chuckle. You're insane. Kade, 5 minutes. That's all I can give before the storm eats us. Copy that, Jax said, scooping Lysera into his arms. 5 minutes is practically a vacation. As he carried her out into the singing crystal forest, Lysera pressed a trembling hand over his heart plate. Humans? She whispered, eyes shining. You burn so strangely. Yeah, he said softly. We get that a lot. The iron storm descended like a living wall. Green lightning arced between the crystal spires, setting them howling in discord. The air turned thick, buzzing, every hair on Jax's arms prickling even through the armor. He ran. Lysera clung to his neck, teeth clenched against the jarring pain. Put me down, she gasped. I will slow you. Not planning on auditioning for Hero of the Week by leaving you behind, Jax said. Besides, I need someone to tell me if my hair looks good in stormlight. She stared at him. Then, to his surprise, laughed a breathy, chiming sound. Bolts of green energy sizzled into the ground around them, exploding crystal columns into clouds of razor shards. Jax ducked under a falling spire, feeling it scrape the back of his armor. His visor flashed warnings. Radiation spike, neural interference, visual input, compromised, the world blurred. Sound stretched, warped. For a moment he stumbled, and Lysera's hand clamped over the side of his helmet. Her bioluminescent markings flared brighter, casting a soft halo around them. Let me anchor you, she said. Open your inner channel. Lady, I don't even know what that means. Her fingers slid to the junction of his neck seal. She murmured something, and his suit's neural mesh flickered, confused by her touch. Then the storm noise faded. Instead, he heard humming. A low, steady tune, like a lullaby made of vowels and light. It wasn't in his ears. It was inside his skull, resonating behind his thoughts. Somehow, her bioelectric field was interfering with the storm's neural distortion shielding him. You hacked my brain. He managed. Linked, she corrected calmly, though her voice trembled. Only enough to share balance and clarity. Your mind. It is loud, but steady, loud. Rude, he grinned, feet finding confidence again. Hold on, Lysera. Almost there. Ahead, through the curtains of ash and lightning. The silhouette of the dropship appeared squatting on a flat of cracked glass. Ramp down, engines whining in protest at the storm. Human silhouettes waved frantically. Pulse rounds snapped overhead, burning trails through the charged air. Jax skidded to a halt as a squad of armored figures appeared on the ridge to the right. Virellon soldiers in dark, jagged carapace armor, not the elegant ceremonial kind. Their leader raised a crackling spear rifle. Human! A translator barked over local channel. Release the Vox-Child. She is property of the Empire. You have no claim. Jax glanced down at Lysera. She had gone very still, eyes wide with a different kind of fear. Property, he growled. Lysera shook her head. They are Imperial Custodians. They will take me back to the Auric Waltz. I am a living archive. They will erase this memory. And you, Jax rolled his shoulders and shifted, her weight gently. Yeah, see, I've really grown attached to not being erased. He tapped his comm. Gamma, spin up your guns. The dropship's nose turret rotated with a whine. The Virellon commander hissed. Do not test our claim, human. This world is under Imperial quarantine. Your presence is a violation. Jax smiled, all teeth. Humanity tends to violate a lot of things. Gravity, common sense, dress codes. He took a step toward the dropship. Thing is, she asked me not to leave her. And humans, he tilted his head. Eyes hard. We take that kind of promise personally. The air cracked as the first shots were fired. Pulse fire turned the crystal grove into a laser light show. Human rounds were messy, kinetic, chewing through spires and armor alike. Virellon plasma spears sliced the air in perfect, symmetrical arcs. Jax ducked behind a fallen column, cradling Lysera against his chest. Don't suppose you have a secret pacifist aura that makes everyone nice. Jax Kade? That is not one of my gifts, she said wryly. Despite the fear, there was a spark in her eyes now. But I can cloud their targeting arrays for a moment. If you trust me, lady, I let you poke my brain in a lightning storm. We're past trust issues. She placed her palm flat over his chest plate again. This time, he felt a tingle deep in his sternum like carbonated heat. Her markings flared brighter, casting intricate shadows. Beyond the cover, the Virellon rifles began to misfire. Bolts veering aside, shots hitting harmless crystal instead of human metal. There, she whispered, strain in her voice. Their aim. Twisted. Jax leaned out, carbine barking. He wasn't a sniper, but he was a Marine, and he was angry. 3 custodians went down, armor sparking. The others scrambled, shouting. He ran in short bursts, using the chaos, closing distance to the dropship. You're doing great, he told Lysera. Remind me to buy you dinner after we're not getting shot at. Dinner? She echoed, perplexed. Is this a courtship ritual? He almost tripped. Where I'm from, yeah, kinda. You get food with someone you like and try not to say anything too stupid. And if you do, then you double down on the stupid and hope they think it's charming. A plasma bolt exploded nearby, showering them with glass. The dropship's ramp was 10 meters away now, human Marines firing suppressive bursts. Move, Kade! The pilot shouted. I am not dying for your love life. Noted. Jax yelled back. A custodian leapt onto a crystal ridge above them, spear leveled. His shot came straight for Jax's perfect trajectory. Dead on, Lysera gasped. No! Her hand slammed against Jax's neck seal. The world flickered. For a heartbeat, he saw 2 realities, one where the bolt punched through his helmet, and one where his head tilted just a fraction. Instinct grabbed the second option like a lifeline. He ducked. The plasma shot sizzled past, burning a hole through his shoulder plate instead of his skull. They hit the ramp. Marine hands grabbed them, hauling them inside. The ramp slammed shut, engines flaring as the dropship clawed for altitude through the screaming storm. Jax lay on his back, chest heaving. Lysera sprawled half across him, his shoulder armor smoked. One of the Marines stared at her. "You brought a Virellan princess onto my ship." Lysera blinked. "I am not a princess. I am a Vox-Child." "My duties are. She's our guest." Jax cut in firmly. "Under my protection." Lysera looked down at him, head tilted. "Your protection?" "I believe I also protected you just now." He cracked a grin. "Yeah, guess we're even." Her lips curved small, but real. "Not yet, human." The human cruiser HSS Indomitable hung in orbit like a knife in the dark, angular, ugly, all efficient lines and bristling guns. Its corridors were cramped and dim, the air heavy with recycled metal and disinfectant. Lysera sat on an infirmary bed, watching as a medbot scanned her broken leg. Nano-braces shimmered as they stitched bone and tissue. Human technology was crude compared to Virellon bioart, but effective in its own stubborn way. Jax leaned against the bulkhead nearby, shoulder patched up, helmet tucked under one arm. He'd refused to leave during her treatment, despite the medic's exasperated sighs. "You are very noisy," Lysera observed, listening to the bustle of the ship. The shouts, the laughter, the distant clang of maintenance. "Humans like to make sure the universe knows we're alive," Jax said. "So, what's a Vox-Child doing on a courier ark in a quarantined war zone?" She hesitated. Her eyes shifted to the closed hatch, then back to him. "If I tell you, your war changes." "Lady, I already pissed off my own command for you. My war's pretty flexible at this point." She took a breath. The medbot clicked quietly around her leg. The Empire claimed this world was infected by a cognitive plaga mimetic toxin that unravels minds. They forbade all but sanctioned research vessels. Our people mourned the loss, but obeyed. "We always obey." Her voice turned bitter on the last word. Jax nodded slowly. "And, in truth," she whispered, "Virellon holds a buried archive. An old one, before the Empire. My line was bred-engineered to interface with such relics. I was sent to wake it. Your line was bred for that." His jaw clenched. "The Empire designs us like tools." Her eyes met his. "What I found in the archive was not a plague. It was evidence. Evidence of what? Of war crimes," Lysera said, "not by humans. By my own empire. They have been wiping entire star clusters, mind-erasing survivors, reshaping history, repeating it. The archive holds records of worlds that never existed, according to the Imperial record. Worlds they destroyed." She looked down at her hands, fingers curling. "They meant to use me as a conduit, to copy and then purge the archive. To lock the truth away forever." Jax exhaled slowly. "So when your ship crashed, it was no accident," she said. "Imperial Custodians were waiting. If I survived the interface, they were to retrieve me and erase what I'd learned. And you still remember?" Jax asked. Her glow dimmed, then flared. "I burned the knowledge into my neurocrystal lattice. They cannot remove it without unmaking me." He whistled softly. "You turned yourself into a living war crime database. That's hardcore. But no one would believe a single Virellon traitor." Jax scratched his jaw. "Yeah, see, here's the thing about humans. We love an underdog, a smoking gun, and pissing off oppressive empires. You're speaking our love language." The hatch hissed open. Admiral Ray Voss entered tall, gray at the temples, eyes like cold steel. Her uniform was crisp enough to cut glass. "Sergeant Kade," she said. "Walk with me." Now, Jax's posture straightened automatically. "Yes, ma'am." He glanced back at Lysera. She watched him go, something soft and anxious in her gaze. The Admiral's ready room was lined with holomaps and tactical streams. Warfronts flared in red and blue across the starfield. Voss stood in front of a viewport, arms folded behind her. "So," she said, not turning, "you brought an illegal alien VIP onto my ship against standing orders. You then forced a dropship to linger in a lethal storm, risking all hands. Are the basics of the situation correct, Sergeant?" "Yes, ma'am," Jax said. With respect, those orders sucked. A corner of her mouth twitched. "Your personnel record suggested you might say something like that." She turned, eyeing him. "The Virellon claims to hold proof of Imperial atrocities. Convenient." "Convenient and consistent," Jax said. "Those custodians down, they cared more about grabbing her than killing us." That smelled like internal cleanup. Voss tapped a control. A holla of Lysera flickered above the desk medical readings, neural patterns, an overlay of unknown Virellon data structures. "Our analysts are very excited," Voss said dryly. "If she's telling the truth, this could turn half the galaxy against the Virellon Empire. If she's lying, it's the best bait I've ever seen." Jax crossed his arms. "With respect, Admiral, she's not bait. She's a person. One the Empire bred like hardware and tried to erase." Voss's eyes narrowed. "You're emotionally compromised?" "Yeah," Jax said. "That's kind of our thing." She studied him for a long moment. "Why did you save her? Really?" Images flashed through his mind, her hand trembling as she reached out in the wreck. The way she'd shielded him from the storm shared her mind with his. The fierce light in her eyes when she chose to carry Forbidden's truth inside herself. "Because everyone else decided she was expendable," he said quietly. "And humans don't do well with that?" "Not anymore." He met the Admiral's gaze. "And because I like her." Voss sighed, like she'd expected that answer and hoped she wouldn't get it. "Of course you do." She turned back to the viewport. Outside, the stars burned cold. "The Empire has already transmitted a formal protest," she said. "They know we have her. They are mobilizing a task force to retrieve stolen property and enforce their quarantine with necessary measures." Jax's jaw clenched. "Let me guess. Their version of necessary includes turning this ship into slag." "Oh, undoubtedly." Voss's eyes hardened. "We're outgunned and outnumbered, which puts us right where humans do our best work." She tapped another control. A holla of Lysera's neural map expanded, showing a glowing core of distorted memory nodes. "She's requested to perform a binding ritual," Voss said. "Something Virellon claims it will let us access the archive in her mind and broadcast proof to the sector. But it requires a counterpart with atypical neural plasticity." Translation: a human who's dumb enough to let an alien plug into his head. Jax raised a hand. "I know a guy. I thought you might volunteer," Voss said dryly. "Be advised, if this goes wrong, you could both die. Or worse than dying." Jax susked. "You could wind up erased. Like those worlds she's talking about." Minds turned into smooth, empty glass. Jax considered that, then shrugged. "I've been bored before." "It's not so bad." Voss stared at him, then shook her head in half-exasperated admiration. "Humans, you really are space orcs with a martyr complex. We prefer emotionally caffeinated problem solvers, ma'am," she snorted. "Get back to the infirmary, Sergeant. Tell your Virellon that if she wants to shake the Empire to its rotten core, she has her chance. We make our stand when the task force arrives." "Yes, ma'am." He turned to go. "And Kade," she added. He paused. "If this ritual works and we survive," Voss said, "you're going to be famous. A hero." He grimaced. "That sounds awful. Can I just keep the girl instead?" Her laugh followed him out into the corridor. They cleared a small observation chapel near the ship. Espina, quiet place with a reinforced viewport showing the starfield. The hum of the ship was softer here, almost like a heartbeat. Lysera stood carefully, her heeled legs still stiff. She wore a simple human tunic over her own ceremonial bands, a strange blend of marine gray and woven crystal. "Your admiral agreed," she said as Jax entered. "I did not expect that. Humans can be reasonable," Jax said. "Usually right after we've tried everything else." She smiled faintly. "And you are certain you wish to do this? The binding is not gentle, neither am I. Mon vinclosé. Walk me through it." She lifted her hands, showing fine, crystalline filaments emerging from the skin of her wrists. They shimmered like spider silk made of light. "My people were engineered to interface with ancient structures," she said. "But we can also link with living minds. Temporarily, in theory, our emotions, memories, senses can overlap. Like the storm," he said. "When you anchored me." "That was a whisper of this," she swallowed. "If we bind, we share everything that rises to the surface. You will see my memories. I will feel your feelings." Jax raised an eyebrow. "All of them. Anything that touches the joining," she said. "Fear, hope, love, regret." He searched her eyes. "You sure you want human brain noise in your head? It's messy in here." "Lot of regret." Her gaze softened. "I wish to know the man who chose me over his orders." He took her hands. The crystalline threads brushed his skin. They were warm and buzzing, like holding tiny live wires. "All right, Lysera Vox-Line," he said quietly. "Let's rewrite a galaxy." She took a deep breath. "Brace yourself, Jax Kade." The filaments flowed into his palms, sliding under the skin with a sensation halfway between an electric shock and being submerged in cold water. His vision blurred. Then the universe exploded into two. He stood in a Virellon hall of Glassa Cathedral grown from luminous crystal, filled with floating memory flames. Each flame was a world, spinning slowly, flickering with lives and histories, 1,000 planets singing in light. Lysera stood beside him, glowing more brightly here, her markings blazing like constellations. "This is the archive," she said, her voice echoing from everywhere. "The true record?" He reached out to a flame. Images slammed into him. Alien children playing under 3 suns. Poets carving symphonies into glass trees. Engineers building ships that sailed dark energy currents. A whole civilization. Then abrupt blackness, silence. The flame went cold. "Erased," Lysera whispered. "Every world like this, the Empire called them anomaly. Deviations from optimal design." Rage rose in Jax, hot and bitter. "They murdered entire cultures because they didn't fit a blueprint." "Yes," her voice shook. "Their propaganda says they shaped chaos into order. But they exterminated anything that did not serve their pattern, including their own Asawit no Virellon fleets roll Starfire, then deploying mine scrubbers to rebuild survivors into obedient tools. Oveandove zitsovo, Zai decided. His fists clenched. "I hate bullies," he whispered. The archive trembled. Lysera turned to him, eyes searching his. "This is why I burned it into myself. I could not let it vanish. But alone, I am a traitor. With you, with me, you've got humanity's stubbornness stapled to your truth," he said. "We're real bad at shutting up once we know something like this." He felt her reaction, an echo of his anger, his protective instinct. At the same time, her memories brushed his, a childhood raised inside glass towers, praised only for her utility. The aching loneliness of being worshipped as a tool instead of loved as a person. He flinched, not from the pain, but from how familiar it felt. Not the circumstances, those were alien and strange, but the underlying ache, wanting to be chosen, not used. Lysera's gaze softened as she tasted his own buried scars battlefields. Storm-scoured, the quite tested expendable grunt. Someone whose name vanished in a line of after-action reports. You carry so much loss, she whispered. Yeah, he said roughly. We're really into collecting trauma. It's a hobby, yet you keep laughing, she said. And reaching out. And breaking rules for strangers. That's what humans do when the universe tells us no, he said. We say, watch this. She smiled through sudden tears. I like that about you. The archive brightened. The memory flames pulsed, drawn to the intensity between them. Outside, on the Indomitable, Admiral Voss watched neural readings spike off the charts. They're doing it, she murmured. All hands, battle stations. When that task force arrives, we're broadcasting whatever those to find to every listening ear in the sector. The Virellon fleet was already inbound. Warships cutting through the dark like blades. The stage was set.